The Mêdog hydropower station is a feat of engineering. It's set to be the world's biggest dam with an electricity output that could power the entire United Kingdom, with a view to bolster China's economic growth. But what will be the impact on the downstream countries, India and Bangladesh, which rely on those waters for agriculture and industry? To discuss the potential fallout of China's ambitious engineering project, we are joined by Dechen Palmo, Research Fellow at the Environment and Development Desk of the Tibet Policy Institute from Dharamshala in India, and also in India, Neeraj Singh Manhas, Special Advisor for South Asia at the Parley Policy Initiative from Gujarat State. Thank you both for staying with us. Firstly, Dechen, let me start with you here. Can you explain the flow of Tibet's Yarlung Tsangpo River, where the dam is being built as it goes further downstream?
So from Tibetan Plateau, it has its source in the Mount Kailash near the Kangrambuchi, and it flows into India. From Tibet, it flows into, with the Great Band, it enters into India, Arunachal, and then Assam, and it flows into Bangladesh. And this river is considered as a source of livelihood for the downstream countries like India and Bangladesh. So there will be a 2 hydropower station, which would be built in the hydropower dam, small hydropower dam on the Mêdog County, and there would be another dam would be built on the Pei Dam. It is a part of the hydropower project. However, the main hydropower generation would be done through the tunnel. So by digging the tunnel, like Neeraj had mentioned, that it would be a long tunnel and with a cascade of 5 hydropower stations inside the Namcha Barwa mountain. So this river is also considered very sacred for Tibetans as well as to the downstream countries, India. So and moreover, the region, the Mêdog region, it is also considered as a very sacred in Tibetan religion as well. So by building such a huge hydropower project in this region, it is destroying the Tibetan religion and cultural belief, as well as to the environment, as well as it has impact on the overall geopolitical stability as well. So the river is not just a national rivers as China thinks, but it is a transboundary rivers. What happens on the Tibet, it is having direct impact on the downstream countries.
Neeraj, I want to pick up on a couple of points Dechen made there. Now, she talks about the tunnels there. Now, experts we've spoken to say this is likely to be what's called a run-of-the-river dam, which means it doesn't block the entire flow of the river, partially blocks it, and then diverts water into a tunnel or a series of tunnels instead of a big reservoir. So the water will keep flowing. So, Neeraj, in that case, does that mitigate issues downstream? Does that mean that the impact downstream is less, given that it's not the entire river that is blocked?
Rightly said by Dechen, because the China has been claiming this for a very long time. That initially when the announcement came of this dam, when China is going to construct this dam on the Mêdog County, so this was estimated that eventually. The dam will be constructed on the Mêdog run-of-the-river dam. There would be no reservoirs where water would be collected. So eventually this was, being portrayed to the Indian side and to the Bangladesh that, there will be no harm. Let's suppose if this dam would come up. So eventually the claim has been, by China that there would be no the blockage of water which will be done from the China's end. But, there are a lot of speculations here, because in the Three Gorges Dam itself, you see, which has been built on Yangtze River, there was, first of all, the huge number of people were displaced at that point of a time also. And there is a huge reservoir where water is still collected. So you can well imagine that what China says and what China do, there are 2 different stories at the at the same way. So eventually with this super dam where the things would be at a extra super level, so you can well imagine that it would be very hard to believe on China's narrative and the China's point of story that it will be just on the run of the river and it is not going to mitigate the other downstream countries.
Right. And so what are your biggest concerns there, Dechen, as we go downstream, especially into India and the agricultural areas, and then further down?
So even with the run-of-the-river hydropower project dam, there is a need to store the water during the dry season. And however, with this kind of reservoir, as I mentioned earlier, the one which they are planning to build in Menling for this hydropower project, these hydropower project, this reservoir will also trap the sediments, which is very important for the downstream agriculture. So these, reservoir also act as a barrier to the sediments flow, and also these trap the silt and the very nutrient, which is very essential for the downstream countries. So these Yarlung Tsangpo, it is very important source of nutrient for the Brahmaputra floodplains as well. And so by holding so much of water, it will so much water in this reservoir. This will also hold this nutrient. So it will replenish these are very important to replenish the soil in the downstream, like Assam and Bangladesh. So other than this will also have impact on the fish migration. So many of the people in downstream, like Bangladesh, people are very much dependent on the fishing. So these by building such a reservoirs on those rivers, in these rivers, they will also hold the fish migration, block the fish migration. So it will also lead to the reduce of the fishing, and moreover also lead to the erosion of the delta region. So there will be a sea level as because of the climate change impact. There's a sea level rise problem in the Bangladesh. So by holding sediments, which are very important to counter the sea level rise in coastal region. So these are also having impact on the Bangladesh delta region. So overall, these hydropower project will have impact on the agriculture of the downstream countries, their livelihood of fishing and other, other movement of the goods from through the rivers, and also have impact on the delta erosion and sinking of the coastal region. So overall, it is directly impacting the economic and social life of the people in downstream countries.
Mm-hmm. And given the length and the breadth and the sheer size of this, the Brahmaputra River as it goes further down and spreads out, it's going to affect a large number of communities, I believe. So, Neeraj, India has called this dam a potential, quote unquote, water bomb. Basically signaling that China could use this as a geopolitical weapon. Can you tell us how realistic it is that it could be? China could use it as some kind of a geopolitical threat to control the water flow into the Brahmaputra River?
Okay, so this, quote, the water bomb was used by, first of all, the Member of Parliament, Mr. Taper Gao. And I was there and I was invited there to speak on the same topic. So, definitely, the geopolitical angle gets a very spicer, when you factor in the history. As I said, the China cannot be trusted. What they say, what they do is there are two different sides of the story. And eventually what we saw in 2017, when the Doklam standoff happened, it shows that how things can heat up very fast between India and China over the border issues. And it really impacted the water issues at that point of time. So China stopped the water sharing with India, but giving the data sharing to the Bangladesh, which is a lower riparian to India. So you can well imagine the controlling the Brahmaputra, the Brahmaputra gives China a very, very strategic edge here, almost like a water weapon. So they could use to pressure India during disputes. And unlike what we saw in the Galwan Valley in 2020, since then till now, I think we are still hoping that the border issues can be solved. Eventually, we are seeing some few signs of the good moves by both the countries. They are talking about reopening of the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra, and then few flights, direct flights from Beijing to India has also started. But the MOUs, the Memorandum of Understanding, which got expired in 2023, they are still not been yet resolved. So there are still things which needs to be sorted, talked about between water issues of India, China. So eventually, unlike military moves, the tweaking water flow is a very subtle but very, very impactful. So it's a very tough for us to counter without escalating the tension. So that said, the China claims it's just a hydropower project for green energy, but not a political tool. But there is a lack of transparency in it. If that is the case, why not to share a data with the lower riparian country? Why to take a unilateral decision? So, and just a huge amount of 167 billion, at this moment of time, really puts everyone in thinking that.
But at the same time, India hasn't set quite an encouraging precedent with recently unleashing its own hydropolitics with Pakistan, suspending the Indus Water Treaty. But there was a framework to address that. So what can it learn from its own actions as it starts to contend with what China could do? What kind of framework should India be thinking about as we go forward and towards when that dam comes online?
Okay, so just for a framework, I would say India has also started working on constructing the dams, and eventually, what we have seen in the Upper Siang region, India has started started cascading of dams. Of I think 11 to 12 dams are there in the row, but still they are under construction. And India is right now focusing on constructing the dams because which is also known as a dam to dam strategy, where if let's suppose if the water is coming from the high altitude, it can directly block the water and it can save the water. And eventually India's need is also to generate electricity, just to give all the seven sisters electricity and just to connect that electricity grid with the national grid. It is very much important.
Mm-hmm. And Dechen, given the dams that India is building at the moment, and particularly, I believe, in Siachen, also there are dams being, the Siang River, I would say, in Arunachal Pradesh. Dechen, what are your concerns with that? Because it seems like almost like a counter-offensive to China building this dam. What are your concerns about now, the type of dam building that is happening in reaction to what China is doing?
So I think like it is as an upper riparian, Chinese government should be more transparent because of, I think it is always happening because of the mistrust between the riparian countries. So if there's a transparency and the kind of treaty or negotiation between the riparian countries, it would be more, I don't think such problem will come up. But China being, China not sharing any information about these hydropower projects makes downstream countries more concerning about their security and water security as well as their economic security. So that's why all these problems coming up. So as a responsible, countries, China should be more transparent about the hydropower project if they are building on any of the downstream transboundary rivers. So that's my take on. Yeah.
Right. So Neeraj, we're just about running out of time here. But looking ahead, how do you see this dam, this Mêdog County dam, shaping Asia's water security? It's far bigger than the region right now with the number of countries it affects. How do you see that changing the geopolitical landscape?
So it's definitely changing a geopolitical landscape because, when China is going to construct this huge dam and it's going to complete by 2035, definitely, seeing its consequences to the downstream countries, whether it is middle riparian India or lower riparian Bangladesh, both the countries will definitely have a huge, consequences. I mentioned about, construction of these 5 big tunnels. Let's suppose if this happens, the huge water diversion will take place. No water will be left. I mean, eventually it will not be felt initially, but in the long run, there would be very less water remain for the lower riparian countries. So that's the first point. Secondly, the countries would not have a geopolitical trust, and in the current time where war can take place any time at any moment. Even within the India-Bangladesh, there are going a lot of water issues which are currently happening. So eventually all the lower riparian or the middle riparian country needs to come up together So how they can tackle up the upper riparian country who are trying to weaponize the water in terms of diversion or controlling it or just storing it. So that question which we need to ask China, how we can come up together, how China can be more transparent in sharing of the data, what are the new strategies India can come up with, so that the lower riparian or the middle riparian, being India and Myanmar countries, the other South Asian countries nearby, they should not feel harassed by the upper riparian. Although we cannot change the geographical location, but there should be some kind of advantages to it, which countries can sit together, they can talk, and they can diplomatically solve this issue.